turned to black. You don't know where to go. You need something to justify your soul. Silences are broken, confidence is gone. When everything you're holding on to falls. Selling truths on every corner now. They wait until the fear has knocked you down. All the rules are changing now. You're living in sin. Everything around you's caving in. And all you're holding on to slipping like water through your hair. Distance, somewhere you can't see, allegiances have formed your destiny. Opposition all around, feeding off your soul, trying hard to swallow up your whole. And the demons all around you, waiting for you to sell your soul. Everything is turned to black. You don't know where to go. You need something to justify your soul. Silences are broken, confidence is gone. When everything you're holding on to falls. Selling truths on every corner now. They wait until the fear has knocked you down. All the rules are changing now. You're living in sin. Everything around you's caving in. And all you're holding on to slipping like water through your hair. in the distance, somewhere you can't see. Allegiances have formed your destiny. Opposition all around, feeding off your soul, trying hard to swallow up your whole. And the game is all around you, waiting for you to sell your soul to sing it. Everything is turned to black, you don't know where to go. You need something to justify your soul. Silences are broken, confidence is gone, when everything you're holding on to falls. Selling truths on every corner now. They wait until the fear has knocked you down. All the rules are changing now. You're living in sin. Everything around you's caving in, and all you're holding on to slipping like water through your hair. In the distance, somewhere you can't see. Allegiances have formed your destiny. Opposition all around, feeding off your soul, trying hard to swallow up your whole. And the game is all around you, waiting for you to sell your soul to sing it. This is is turned to black. You don't know where to go. You need something to justify yourself. Silences are broken, confidence is gone, when everything you're holding on to falls. All the people selling truths on every corner now, they wait until the fear has knocked you down. All the rules are changing now. You're living in sin. Everything around you's caving in, and all you're holding on to slipping like water through your hair. Yeah. And you'll sing la 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 la. Yeah, you'll sing la 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 far in the distance, somewhere you can't see, allegiances have formed your destiny. Opposition all around, feeding off your soul, trying hard to swallow up your whole. And the game is all around you, waiting for you to sell your soul to sing it. La 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 la. They're singing la 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 la
Well, hello, my brothers and sisters in Christ. Hello, everyone. Hi, Gorgrin. Hi, Mo. Hi, Allison. Wow. Tell you what, man. Today has been an absolute jaw-dropping day. I mean, first off, the announcement, what the decision was going to be, was supposed to be done on May 12th, but it's 4 days early. Trump comes out and he says, we're backing out of the Iran nuclear deal. And he really he badmouthed Iran quite intensely. If for those of you that watched it, you know what I'm talking about. And within hours, Israel is bombing Iranian sites in Syria. Iran's military troop movements in in Syria they're on the move. This thing is escalating. The IDF Air Force is on full alert. They have F-15s and et cetera, all in the air right now. They have flying tankers to fuel these planes to keep the planes in the air. I mean, they are in a high state of war right now. they're thoroughly expecting an Iranian attack. It's intense, you know. And I'm going to tell you what. I want you to think about this for a moment. For what Iran's doing right now, as big as it is, you know full well that the Trump administration and Trump knew what they were going to do. And at the same point, with the major announcement that Trump did today, that Israel didn't already have prior knowledge. So therefore, Trump's announcement and this this Israeli attack into Syria. I've been confusing some names. I'm sorry. Uh, been an intense day. But there's no way you can tell me that neither the Trump administration or the Israeli leadership knew what either one was going to do. This is all pre-planned, folks. Don't you see that? This was planned. You got it, Allison. Exactly. You know, we're stepping into World War III right now. It's happening. You know, on Facebook, on YouTube, on these live streams, I've made my point very clear. I along with many other people, have been feeling this absolute heaviness. If you could describe the feeling, you would describe it as black. And we all knew something was that this was all going down. Myself, Photo Helix, and a few others that I talked to, we discussed this, and we absolutely were all looking at it, going, you know what, man? Yeah, I understand, Allison. And we've been like Photo Helix and I were talking. It's like we would be absolutely amazed if we made it through the spring and even through the summer without this major global disastrous war coming upon, us. And people have said to me, "Oh, well, what if you're wrong?" I said, "Well, I'm not a prophet, and I'm not prophetically saying that, but we've been feeling this. We've been telling you this for the longest time, for months and months. Now here we are. I mean, this thing has escalated in such a way that no one ever even began to think was going to happen. And you take a look at what happens on the 14th. That is the 70th anniversary of Israel being regathered as a nation. Implants or not, Allison, I don't know whether you were making it funny or if you meant it for real, but this thing ain't waiting on nobody. This is prophecy fulfilling before our very eyes. We're watching this go down. May 14th is Israel's 70th anniversary, which is a major biblical number of them being regathered as a nation. And it's the 50th anniversary. It's the Jubilee year, 50 being a Jubilee, of when Israel in the 6 Day War and conquered Jerusalem. Now, what else is happening on the 14th? Oh, that's the day that the United States, when they did this, it was supposed to be the embassy would be opening in 2020, and it got vastly upgraded in timeline, and they said now they're on the 14th, on the 70th anniversary of Israel, the United States U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem opens up, and there was supposed to be this big thing, and Trump and Pence were scheduled to be there to lead the opening of this embassy. As of today, it's been officially stated that Trump and Pence will not be in Jerusalem on the 14th. No explanation given. That's it. This isn't about thinking positive or negative. This is just telling you what's really going on right now. I'm not throwing a positive or a negative attitude into any of it. I'm just explaining what's been going on. Well, you just did. All they got to do is go onto Facebook and say, you know, reality residue hunter in a search window, and the group will come up. So you already did. Oh, I'm just it's been a whirlwind. I mean, Iran responded. The UK, Germany, and France, and the nations of the EU have condemned the United States for what they did. Russia did. China did. The UN did. Um, People are talking about U.S. assets have been seized in the Caribbean from the by the UN. Um, Man, what up, Ethan? How you doing, brother? This thing is going big, man. I mean, and I'm gonna tell you what, with what's going right now, they're in a high state of war in Israel and Iran, right on the Syrian border, right in Syria. Um, Israel's bombing them. They're activating all of their military. They're getting the nation in high war alert. Uh, they're opening up all the bunkers up in the northern regions and in the Golan along the Syrian border. This thing is really, really going down, people. It's out of control already. It's you know, I've been just I've been watching everything from Is It Really News Live, Reuters, RT News, some Arabic websites, well, uh, news agencies, outlets. I've just been combing through everything through YouTube videos and people that have news links that I don't, and just been pouring through all of this and just, you know, and I'm going to tell you what, we've been telling you this for months, and now we're sitting in a situation right now where, for those of you that kind of watch the live streams or you've seen other live streams about getting your bug out gear and supplies prepared, or your bug in gears and supplies prepared, depending upon what situation you're in and how you got to go through about this. But all right, cool. Right now, honestly, Teresa, right now, um, Facebook groups are not my priority. I'm watching what's developing in our world right now. Um, hey, fantastic for you, and I hope it grows as long as we're still here. But man, things aren't looking good right now. All right, well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. Let me jump onto this. We've been 26 minutes. That's good enough. Enough of my ugly face. I'm going to go ahead and shut my camera off and get the because my microphone is connected to the camera, so I bring it down onto the table so anybody that calls in, um, they can hear you better. So I'm going to shut my camera off, and uh, anybody want to call in? There's the number scrolling across. If you're friends with me on Facebook and you want to use Messenger, by all means do so. So let me get this down. Okay, you ready? And that is gone. All right, let me bring the camera down. All right, cool. Now, yeah, so it's been a trip to say the least, you know. Israel just stated here publicly. They said that if Syria's president al-Assad allows for the Iranians to retaliate into Israel from Syria, that they're going to liquidate President al-Assad or President Assad. Um, they said they're going to assassinate him. Uh, they're also talking about that if Tel Aviv gets hit, that Tehran gets hit. You know, I mean, this thing is like getting really big, and neither side is backing down. Um, believe it or not, Iran feels emboldened by the world response to the U.S. backing out of the nuclear deal. Because China said they're sticking with Iran. Russia said they're sticking with Iran. The UK said they're sticking with Iran. I think I said China said they're sticking. Turkey is sticking with Iran. I mean, all these nations, they're all abiding in there, and the United States and Israel are by themselves. It came across the news today, even just recently, that the UK is sticking with Germany and France and the EU's decision to support Iran on this. Believe it or not. This is the real deal, man. So, for those of you that questioned and said, "Well, what if this doesn't happen?" Um, I hope you're watching the news and I hope you're paying attention because this is really going down. As we've been telling you, um, it's been. So, does anybody want to call in, man? If there's a day that somebody should be calling in, I think today's the day. Oh, Barbara Ward, thank you for subscribing. I don't know how long we're going to be here. I mean, literally, when you look at all scenarios of a war breaking out in Syria, all scenarios end up as it escalating exponentially at a rapid pace to a global war. Every scenario, and here we are. We're on the very, very precipice, staring down into the abyss of this thing breaking out. Yeah, just waiting on a phone call, man. No one wants to call. Come on, man. Well, if you're gonna call, wait 30 seconds because I'm gonna head to um to the kitchen real quick and get something to drink. Mouth is dry. Get some iced tea in there. All right, I'm back. Sorry for the delay. Oh man. Jenny, what do you mean what happened? Haven't you been watching any source of media? Even mainstream media has been reporting on these things. Well, if you call in, you want to give your your new group a shout out. I don't have a problem with that. Um, but man, I want to talk about prophecy that's been fulfilled today. I mean, I'm going to tell you what, anything that's happened in any of the groups that I've created on Facebook, I don't, other than, I've been making comments about what's been going on in those groups, but I'm more concerned about what prophetically happened today. And we're on the verge of World War III. Do you understand that, people? It's it's been a trip, you know. I woke up catching all kinds of nope, nothing. Well, Jenny, I'm sure we'll be talking about it more throughout the evening, but yeah, we pulled out of the nuclear deal. Um, Iran is on high alert. Uh, Israel's on high alert. There's been massive troop movements going on in Syria. Israel is opening up all of their bunkers for their civilians in the northern regions of Israel along the Syrian borders and in that in the northern regions. Um, their air force is in full flight. They have 24-hour a day warplanes flying. They've bombed Iranian sites in Syria on 3 separate occasions today. Um, there's been a lot of yelling and screaming at each other from across the board. Come on, there we go. Iran's threatening to attack to attack Tel Aviv. Uh, uh, Israel's threatening to respond in kind, attacking Tehran. Um, the Russians are supporting Iran. Chinese are going along with the Russians. The United States is supporting it. It's like it's all going down. Yeah, Gorgon, um, a lot of that's been getting leaked out, and they're talking about taking those four neighborhoods and turning it into an international city, for which part of it will be the Palestinian capital. It will be the Vatican that will oversee this international city. I mean, it's going down in front of our faces, people. Yep, turn it into international land. Well, you got to realize when Trump proclaimed to the world that the United States will recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital, and then declared to move the embassy by 2020, then move the date to May 14th of 2018. They did that for purpose and meaning, and I'm gonna tell you what. Uh, Pastor Farak out of JD Farak out of Hawaii was talking about this. You know, absolutely, and there's no free lunch, and essentially the United States were like, look what we've done for you. This is what we want in return. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Um, Absolutely, Sharon, you got it. And I will respond to that, Candy, by saying, no need to bug in when you have the supplies necessary and you have the Lord on your side to bug out. So either way, um, we should be praying for one another and uplifting one another, not condemning these that are bugging in and condemning those that are bugging out. This is about praying for one another, you know. You know, this whole thing has been unveiling in such a way that everyone that predicted how last days events would unfold and how tribulation would come and whether there was or there wasn't a rapture, everybody's been wrong. I'm not going to tell you what's definitely next on the agenda because only God knows that. It's about seeing everything happening right now. I have to agree with you on that, Sharon. Right now, Mandela effect is not where I'm looking at. Exactly. When you see these things come to or begin to come to pass, look up for your redemption. Your redemption. Look up and rejoice, for your redemption comes nigh. Um, I'm not saying that there is a pre-trib rapture or a beginning tribulation rapture. I'm not saying that it's mid. I tend to believe everything that I've researched that we're going to be here through the whole thing. But with that being said, I agree with this. Whether you believe in post, mid, or beginning, be prepared, period. Man, if you're called as a watchman on the wall, get up there and start pronouncing and proclaiming. Spread the word of Christ. Yeah, it's and for those that are not Christians, man, if there are people that are not Christians that are kind of watching, Zechariah, I think Zechariah 12, Jeremiah, in Daniel, in Revelation, in Mark, in Luke, in Matthew. I mean, what prophecy do you want to point out? I mean, this is you're watching a major global event that's about to occur, a major global war. Uh, Everything biblically is lining up, and if you don't see it, it's I just don't know. I'm just paying very close attention, and I'm ready to go. I mean, if it comes time, um, is when I say goodbye to everything here on this world. This electricity and living in my apartment, blah 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 blah. When I see that it's time to bug, I will bug out. I will head to my dad's, and we go from there. Um, well, all of the nations involved in in the Ezekiel 38 war are in Syria, with a few of them that aren't mentioned, you know, um, including the United States. That's where I was leading to, the war of Ezekiel 38. I literally see the United States being wiped out and then the world coming against Israel. Why do I think that? Well, because they know that there's a good chance that war is going to be erupting in the Middle East, involving Iran and Israel and Syria, the United States, Russia, China, the UK, Germany, France, Libya, Egypt. You want me to go down the list? All the nations are there right now. Literally, I can't think of a nation that doesn't have troops that are in Syria right now. It's just that intense. I'm not a prophet, but the way I see this thing working out, there is going to be a war, and the United States and Russia are going to bump heads, and this thing is going to go global. I don't know how much longer the United States has. Um, and if we're not completely destroyed, we will be crippled to such a point that we have no ability to make war. You understand that? So when the Ezekiel 38 war follows immediately thereafter, oh, it's gearing up and gearing up fast, you know? What, cat? Checking to see if there's any latest. All right, cool. Just kind of peeping over, looking to see. I don't need to bug out days or weeks before this thing actually explodes in. Um, I'm prepared, but I'm staying put, and I will continue to live stream, and I will continue to minister and do the things that I do until such a time that when it's time to go, I'll know. What book are you talking about? I'll tell you how I'll know. When the news starts to pour out that the United States and Russia are in conflict with one another, then it's time to go. And you know what? If I'm stuck in my town and when a nuke hits, so be it. But I'm not gonna just run to the hills in fear. Whatever, man. I don't see the argument of saying what's wrong with someone that is planning to do the best that they can survive when there are those that say, hey, we're going to. I say we pray for one another that each one of us stays safe no matter what we do. How's that for an answer? I don't know about any Bible ending at Revelation 14. Yeah, I never heard of a Bible ending at 14 unless someone ripped pages. I don't know. I could, whatever, but never heard of that before. No, that ain't about aliens. That's about fallen angels, people. Not the one that Ezekiel saw. I'm bringing it up now. All right. Yeah, that's I understand that part of Ezekiel. Oh, that would be awesome, Sheila. Absolutely. Absolutely, that would be awesome. Wow, we've been on for almost an hour and not one person has called in. I mean, really, I'm amazed. I can't shut up about what's been going on. I saw that video, Sheila, and I don't, we shall see. But that's all pre-trib rapture belief. They don't believe that the tribulation has already started. They believe that even if it hasn't already started, they still believe that there. And I'm not of that crowd. I am of those that are um, that the wrath of God is after the tribulation. So therefore, we're going to be here through the tribulation. That we're not appointed to the wrath of God, but we are appointed to the wrath of man and the wrath of Satan. But it's going to be what it's going to be. All right. What up, my brother? How you doing, man?
Hey, Paul. How you going?
Kind of been watching and digging for every morsel I can get as to what's going on right now,
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely big news. Um, I was, as you know, when I spoke to you earlier today, I was paying attention. I was supposed to be in bed, but I was just waiting for the updates because it's quite significant. It allows what Trump has done with Iran. It opens up the doorway for retaliation or other escalative measures from those who are opposing the move. It's on a tightrope, I guess, at the moment, and an event like this is something that could very well tip the scales, and for many who follow the prophetic side of the war in Syria, this move could and will have major implications. So, yeah, it was quite interesting to just follow it, and I guess I mean, as dreaded as we feel, knowing the times that we're in, that feeling of dread that we've spoken about, I couldn't help, when I heard the news, I couldn't help but feel a little bit at peace, knowing that the events, prophetic events of the end times keep moving in the direction that that lead us closer to the return of Christ. And ultimately, I think I'd be safe to say for everyone out there who knows Christ, and we look forward to this time to be over, and for things to just go into motion. And personally, I spoke to you and I said, I want to stay here longer, mainly because I would love to spend more time with my wife, and have more time with my family. But in the same breath, I'm looking forward to the new when everything passes away and we finally can be at peace, in the new kingdom. So, I think a lot of people have been battling and are tired. The saints are tired. We've been waiting and for a long time, and when Christ was going to be handed over to betrayed by Judas, and he was asking his disciples, stay awake, I need you during this time, and they kept falling asleep. And as we know with the Mandela effect, Christ originally said in that scripture, why are you still sleeping? Awake, the time is at hand for the Son of Man to be handed over. Which now says, sleep on now, take your rest. And then in the very next verse, awake, for the time is at hand. So that's quite prophetically significant to the time. That change is saying, when the time was near for the Son of Man to be handed over, can be drawn parallel to his second coming. The saints are tired and they're falling asleep because we've been fighting a war for our entire lives, or from the moment we were born again. We've been struggling with sin, with the world, the persecution, and I think a lot of us are tired and just want it to be, over and done with, so we can all be at peace and live in joy and with Christ as our King. So, these events, as sad as it is, at the same time, I remember thinking last night, when you see all these events, look up and rejoice, lift your heads up and rejoice, for your redemption draws nigh, which is quite interesting because a couple of days ago I realized the word rejoice no longer exists in that scripture in Luke 21:28. And so I actually did a bit of residual hunting, and found quite a lot of residual. It was like I read the scripture, and then I was listening to David Wilkerson, an old prophecy, and he paraphrased the verse, and when he said rejoice, I was like, it was like it all came flooding back, and I'm like, wait, that's no longer there. I remember that. I remember reading that, lift up your heads and rejoice. Because a lot of us as Christians at the moment, we're so tired. We've been fighting this struggle and, battling daily in the spiritual. And, for a lot of us, it's got us down. But, I think that's, when it says lift up your heads and rejoice, it's saying, as bad as it is, remember that these things have to happen, and that it is a good thing for us when it does happen, because it means that we're finally going to go home. We're at the end of that time. So so that sort of brought a lot of peace to me last night when all these things happened, and I sort of thought, you know what, this if this move is the final straw that moves us into the next phase, like I'm ready. I'm ready to seek the Spirit out, the Holy Spirit, and have Christ lead into this next phase. And whatever happens, you know, I can be at peace. And I think that's, yeah, child of light. I had that big epiphany too. I'd read it a few times since it had changed, but I didn't pick up on it until I was listening to David Wilkerson saying old prophecy, and he was paraphrasing the verse, and then I went and found a lot of residual in books, in songs. So that was what was like, wow, rejoice. That part's missing. It's because it's kind of indicating that we're no longer rejoicing about these times. We've all got our heads down, and we're all, you know, we're tired, and we've been battling, and we're sad. But we need to look back to God and remember that, you know, these things happen. It's a good thing for us because it means we're finally at the end of the age. So we should be at peace and rejoice that, you know, the Lord is coming very soon. So, yeah.
Yeah, you know, at the same point, I come to the understanding and the realization that the reason why that scripture says look up and rejoice is because at the moment that we're looking up, we're not rejoicing. And when you go to Amos 5:18, you know, and it says, woe to those who look forward to the day of the Lord, for that day is dark. And what it means is what we are going to have to endure and go through in these last days as this tribulation unfolds is going to be extremely intense. This isn't going to be like you're going to go to work and you're going to do your job and you're going to live your life just like you normally are right now, just really stressed out while you're watching all these things unfold in the world. No, what it means is we are going to be persecuted and hunted down. We are, you understand what I'm saying? There's going to be war, there's going to be famine, there's going to be pestilence, there's going to be signs in the sun, the moon. It's all going down right now, but it's just going to intensify. So woe to those that look forward to that day because of what we got to go through. But for those that are alive, when that all comes to fruition as it's working its way out, and it says, look up and rejoice, because we won't be rejoicing while we're going through this.
No. But yeah, just that being at peace, like, you know, and that doesn't mean you know, I'm jumping up and down and celebrating, but I just mean you know, as we've been very down with everything that we've been experiencing, you know, with the quantum effect and with people persecuting us for trying to step out in faith and bring them to this what we see, and you know, and it really has. We've taken a hit because we've seen our own brothers and sisters in Christ just mock us and reject us for, rather than, you know, actually supporting and trying to figure out why we see these things. We've been met with even animosity at times, and that's, you know, I think that's the point is, you know, we can be at peace that if these signs are happening and we see them, as bad as things are going, we can move forward because we know what's going to happen. We know that God's won, and that.
Hey, we got a couple new people in the room. Cowboy come in and he's like, "What a Rand deal? You know, prophecy. What happened?" So I wanted to take a quick break, 5 minute break here to explain to Cowboy uh, what has actually occurred today. Okay. Number one, President Trump spoke to the world today, and in the most intense terms that you can think of, condemned Iran and declared the United States is pulling out of the nuclear deal. There's been global response. Uh, the uh, the Russians have condemned us. The Chinese have condemned us. Uh, Even the UK came out. They condemned the United States for this act. Germany did. France did. Turkey did. The only people that didn't condemn us was Israel. Even the United Nations condemned us. At which point, hours after Trump made this statement, uh, Israel went into the highest state of alert for war, and they've opened up all the bunkers to their northern regions and inside the Golan. They've got the IDF Air Force is in 24 flying high alert status. I mean, they're preparing for war with Iran. They've bombed Iranian sites in Syria. There's massive troop movements going on in Syria right now with the Iranians. It's escalating and it's going out of control. On the 14th is the 70th anniversary of Israel being regathered as a nation, which is the same day the United States is opening up their embassy. And the big brouhaha that they were going to do for the opening of the embassy, and Trump and Pence were supposed to be there to lead this thing. Announcement came out today that it's been abruptly canceled with no explanation. This thing is developing hour by hour, people. Ezekiel 38, Zechariah 12, um, Jeremiah, Matthew 24. I mean, come on, man. If you don't see this as being biblically prophetic, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean, man? I see it for what it is. Ethan?
Yeah, yeah. I'm just scrolling through the Bible. I just came past Psalms 83, which, if I'm remembering correctly, Psalms 83 comes after Ezekiel 38, or is that right?
Yeah, I tend to believe, along with several other people on this, that the Psalms 83 war occurred in the 1967 Six Day War. And number one, because Persia, Iran, is not mentioned in the Psalms 83 war, but all the nations that were part of the Psalms 83 war were part of the 1967 war. Ezekiel 38, Iran is big time part of this. Persia is a big time part of this.
Yeah.
So the prophecies of Zechariah that talks about the destruction of Babylon, and when I got videos on that. You really need to go back to my main channel, Paul Adams, and watch those videos on Zechariah. It's going to blow your mind because what this person what he made 3 different videos, and I got permission from him to connect all 3 videos into one video and put it on my channel. And as he goes through the original writings and the original translations in the original and ancient Hebrew and explains it out to what you look and what he talks about right there. Zechariah talks about what's going on right here, right now. And we're going to see what goes on in Zechariah happened, and out of the ashes of that, you will see the Ezekiel 38 war come down upon Israel, at which point you're going to see the rise of the Antichrist that's going to bring peace to the world. And we're right here, right now, in your face, happening. I mean,
yeah, no, I agree. I finally found Ezekiel because I did it the hard way.
There you go.
Scrolling through. But yeah, I just wanted to go through a little bit of Ezekiel 1. Sheila was asking about Ezekiel 1 and something about it referencing UFOs. And that's what I wanted to talk about. Now, I remember reading Ezekiel 1 for the first time about 4 years ago. And I actually, I think I must have reread it about 3 or 4 times, and each time I got a better understanding of what the Lord was revealing to me. And when I actually got online and actually researched this, it turned out that there were many other people who understood what Ezekiel's vision was actually about. And whether this, whether there's those out there that agree or not, I mean, that's for those to, consult, read and consult the Holy Spirit and for revelation. But I just remember reading this and going, wow, it was like I was just understanding the description of his words. It just was as plain as day for me. And what Ezekiel was talking about in Ezekiel 1, what his vision is talking about, he appears to be describing jet planes and, like fighter jets. So I'm going to read a little bit out, and I want you to just listen to this. I think you also understand it as that way, Paul, too. Is that from memory? Is that
what
you
this?
So yeah. Sorry.
Excuse me. I look at that. Oh, went down the wrong pipe. I hate when I do that. Got my iced tea here, and I was like taking a sip right when you talked, and I went to talk while I was still swallowing. It went down the wrong pipe. All right. When I look at what Ezekiel speaks about, it's because the vision that he's having is not, it's more heavenly, from God than, you know what I mean? So I'm like not sure. I kind of leave it, I'm open minded and I listen to all views because I'm not sure what to make of it, to be honest,
Yeah.
Could it be fallen angels? Could it be, another version of Jacob's ladder? I don't know. So I listen to what other people's opinions are. So you were talking about this, understanding of him talking about jet planes. So go ahead and explain.
Yeah. So I'll just read out some of it, and I'm not saying that I know the answer, that this is 100% what it is, but this is how I just understood it as I was reading it, and how I've understood it since. And for me, it just read out that it was referring to like fighter jets, and it could be wrong. I'm not gonna say it's neither here nor there, but I will read it out and just explain why. I came to that understanding that, and so I'll start from verse 4. So this is Ezekiel's vision. And I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north, a great cloud. So already there's a description of the north. So we know whatever it is, it's come out of the north, coming towards Babylon, because I think that's where he was at the time. A great cloud and a fire enfolding itself, and a brightness was about it, and out of the midst of it, like the color of amber, out of the midst of the fire. So straight away, it's coming in the cloud, it has fire around it, and it's bright, the color of amber, and out of the midst of the fire. Also, out of the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had the likeness of man, and every one had 4 faces. So we know there's 4, and every one of them had 4 wings. We know a jet has 4 wings. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished bronze. And they had the hands of a man under their wings on their 4 sides, and they 4 had their faces and their wings. Their wings were joined to one another, and they turned not when they went. And they went every one straight forward. As for the likeness of their faces, they 4 had the face of a man and the face of a lion on the right side, and they 4 had the face of an ox on the left side, and they 4 had the face of an eagle. Thus were their faces, and their wings were stretched upward toward wings of every one. 2 wings of every one were joined one to another, and 2 covered their bodies. And they went every one straight forward. Wherever the Spirit was to go, they went. And they turned not when they went. So they were basically just describing these beasts, or are only going forward, and when they turn, they only go forward, like they only turn in a forward motion. And they went everyone straight forward wherever the Spirit was to go. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, and like the appearance of lamps. It went up and down among the living creatures, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. And the living creatures ran and returned like the appearance of the flash of light. Now, as I behold the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures, with its 4 faces. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like the color of beryl, and they 4 had one likeness. So we know these things all look the same, and their appearance had their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. We know there's we know jets have 2 sets of wheels, one at the front, 2 at the back. When they went upon their 4 sides, and they turned not when they went. As for their rims, wow, I didn't know that word was there. And they were so high that they were dreadful, and their rims were full of eyes around the 4 of them. And when the living creatures went, the wheels went with them, by them. And when the living creatures were lifted up from the earth, the wheels lifted up. Wherever the spirit was to go, they went, and there was a spirit to go, and the wheels were lifted up beside them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. When those went, these went. This is quite a bit of a mouthful. When those went, these went, and when those stood, these stood, and when those lifted up from the earth, the wheels were lifted up beside them, for the spirit of the living creature was in the wheels. Anyway, I won't go on any further than that, but it does, or it very much Ezekiel could be conveying in his own understanding in the words of his time, could be conveying the vision of what we know as a jet plane or a fighter jet. We know that fighter jets work in 4 squadrons of 4. We know that fighter jets all have 4 wings. We know that fighter jets move up and the wheels go up with them. And we know that fighter jets go forward, and when they turn, they are still moving forward. And we know that fire comes out the back of fighter jets, which is what he seems to be describing. And there's just a lot of striking similarities in what he describes in this vision. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that is what it is, but it's quite interesting to consider and a thought to consider anyway. So, yeah, I was just reading that out just for Sheila, who was asking about that before. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's been, I don't know, it's like, I tell people, I don't sit here and tell you what the next prophecy that's going to unveil from this one is going to be. I just point out what's literally happening right now, and because of what's happening right now, we can have a legitimately good idea of what's going to happen very soon, Man, that Ezekiel may very well have been talking about jet aircraft, It's just
Yeah.
I'm trying to bring
It's something
something
to
up.
consider anyway, yeah. I mean, when we tie in with some of Ezekiel's, wars at the end of times, I'll just move to 38.
Yeah, now that there's a chat. If you're gonna read, man, Ezekiel 38 would be a good thing to read to everyone right now, because that's what's happening right in front of us. I'm looking for something here real quick.
Yeah, well, I think the title's quite interesting. In the Schofield, it says, "The Prophecy Against Gog, the Future Invasion of Palestine by the Northern Confederacy." That's quite profound. Whoever wrote that as the title.
All right. Oop. Yeah, I was looking for something here.
Hi, Kerry. Kerry's entered the building.
There it is. All right, cool. All right, cool. There we go. Let me get rid of this. All right, I was searching for something because there's a video that I did a while back. It's the video on Zechariah and the explanation given as to what's actually in that, in those verses. The man that did the work, his name is Tibosaurus Rex, and I give kudos to him and call outs for everyone to make sure they go and thank him for those videos. I got permission from him to take his 3 videos and make them into one video and put them on my channel. And it breaks down what Zechariah actually says and how that Zechariah literally talks about now. So yeah, I've got that set up, so we can probably watch that in a bit. Something y'all might want to pay attention to. Have you done much research into Zechariah, Ethan?
I can't say I've done a lot with Zechariah, only what gone off more what others have explained. And yeah, I mean, I'd have to go back and because I've bounced so much, I was always the New Testament guy, and it's only been in the last sort of 6 months to 2 years that I've really got stuck into the prophetic side of prophecy with regards to the end times. So, apart from the first 6 books and the New Testament, I'm not much familiar with everything else.
Well, I'll tell you what. You want to watch that video and then we'll pick up after it's over?
Absolutely.
All right, everyone. Let me bring this up. Hold up. We're getting... There we go. All right. First thing I got to do is I got to turn off the mic, and then we'll start the video. Well, hello, my friends, my brothers and sisters in Christ. Hello to those of you that aren't Christians that have tuned in. Everybody's welcome. You're all like, wow, he usually does, like, there's usually a week, maybe a week and a half between his videos, so here's a quick one in. What this video is about is something that Photo Helix turned me on to. He kept telling me, you gotta watch this, you gotta watch this, and then he plugged it in his video, and I watched it and I plugged it in, but I noticed that the guy that did the video has got a lot of videos, and he did this like 5 years ago, so I know full well that when I told you all to go and look at this, and when Photo Helix did, that most of you probably went through the videos, and found out, oh man, it's just, I can't find it, so I took the time to find it, download it, and mirror them in. It was 3 parts, okay, and they were like 9-10 minutes a piece. So what I did was I downloaded the 3 parts and I cut out the beginnings to part 2 and part 3 and the ending of part 2 and the ending of part 1. And the reason why I did that is because the ending of part 1 leads into the beginning of part 2, which basically goes over a lot of the information from part 1. So I kind of did some editing to get those 2 together, and I did the same thing with part 2 and part 3. So I kind of put it together for one video so that you can smoothly go along and get exactly what this person's talking about. This man's name is Tibosaurus Rex. Okay, this is his research. He put it all together. Photo Hills fully endorses it. I went through the information. I researched what he put out, and he's dead on. I mean, absolutely. And what he speaks about is so right, and it explains a whole lot that was misinterpreted in Zechariah, and how it was misinterpreted through prophecy, how we looked at it and we just didn't see it for what it really was when you go back to the original Hebrew for which it was written in. This man took the time to put this together, and it is excellent information. So this is in behalf of Tibosaurus Rex. Tiborasaurus. Type that in the search window when he comes up. Throw a thumbs up and give him a comment saying thank you, so that he knows that he's getting all the credit for this. All I did was the messenger. Brought it all together and brought it to you. So with that, enjoy, and share this video. Once again, share this video. Subscribe to my channel, and hit that little bell or gear, whatever you have on your thing, and hit the little thing so that whenever I put a video out, you get updated. The only way for this information to get out is I put it out, you people see it, and you share it, and then other people see it, and then they share it, and so on and so on and so on. So those of us that are doing videos, we depend upon you. So with that, enjoy the video.
All right, we got a new question here. After reading through some of the judgments in Revelation, it seems like it's describing some sort of nuclear holocaust. Is there any other scripture that might fit with this? Well, I'd have to say, yeah, I think so. Both the Old and the New Testaments actually describe an event that seems to be a nuclear war. In Revelation 9, we read about the third part of mankind being killed by the 3 plagues of fire, smoke, and sulfur. Zechariah wrote how their flesh shall consume away while they stand on their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. Joel wrote in chapter 2, I think, I will show wonders in the heavens and on the earth, blood, fire, and billows of smoke. This appears to be describing a nuclear blast. The scriptures actually give quite a detailed description of a judgment of fire that will be sent to earth in the last days. Revelation chapter 8, we see that a third part of the trees are burned up, and all the green grass was burned up. We also read about the judgment of the great whore of Babylon, the city that sits on 7 hills, and how God will cause the kings of the earth to hate her and consume her with fire until she will be found no more at all forever. The scriptures do seem to have a lot to say about this coming fire judgment. Some folks want to only look at some of these prophecies in their spiritual dimensions. Now, I don't argue with sound spiritual interpretations, as they do offer a lot of really good information, but I don't want to hyper-spiritualize the scriptures into oblivion either. God gave us these warnings so that we're not caught unawares when this stuff hits the fan. The prophet Zechariah in particular describes what seems to be a nuclear exchange in such vivid detail, it's downright scary. He speaks of these flying cylindrical containers that deliver these wicked fire offerings composed of extremely heavy metal, which fly across the face of the whole earth and consume houses and buildings, even the stones thereof, and they even leave this residue behind after the destruction. Zechariah even gives the exact dimensions of the delivery vehicles, the size of the containers that hold the wicked fire offerings, and he even details exactly how the heavy metal mechanism of this evil fire offering is detonated. He identifies exactly who is targeted and even why. Now, before we dig into this particular prophecy, we need to review some Hebrew terms. We have to remember that Zechariah had this vision 2,500 years ago and wrote down what he saw the best he could in a language that most of us today don't speak. Unfortunately, sometimes when we read these things in straight modern English, we have a hard time deciphering exactly what's going on. This is a place where a good translation of the Old Testament really shines over our modernized and paraphrased versions that we have, commonplace in America now. I'm going to be looking up the original Hebrew words in this text using a Strong's Concordance with the Hebrew lexicon. And you can all follow along with me. You can get it for free online, or you can buy one at the bookstore. They're not impossible to find. This particular prophecy I'm talking about is found in Zechariah chapter 5. Now, if you read Zechariah chapter 5 using a modern English paraphrase Bible without checking the Hebrew, you're going to be very confused. You are going to be reading about this woman that is so evil that she's crammed into a wicker basket, and nothing is really going to make sense. But we're not going to do that here. We're just going to read exactly what Zechariah says in the Hebrew language. We're not going to creatively spiritualize it away until it doesn't make any sense. You know, unfortunately, many commentaries have kind of done that on this particular passage. So let's review some of our Hebrew first, and then we'll read what Zechariah wrote back in like 520 BC. The first thing that Zechariah sees in this vision is this giant flying roll. Now, what is a roll? Some Bibles say scroll, but the word here is Megillah. Not a scroll like we commonly think that rolls up into the two cylinders. Torah is written on a scroll, rolled up into the two cylinders. Now, a Megillah rolls up into a single cylinder. For example, the book of Esther is on a Megillah and rolls up into a single roll. You can see here a Megillah is pretty much a cylinder and typically has this common 2-to-1 height to circumference ratio. Zechariah gives the size of this Megillah that he sees flying through the air. He says that it's 20 cubits high and 10 cubits in breadth. Now, the word breadth here is not diameter. Diameter is a Greek measurement. The breadth Zechariah is talking about here is what they call a line cast about. We would call it circumference. Like back in, I think it's 1 Kings maybe, King Solomon was building his house with these giant pillars, 30 cubits in breadth. This was the line cast about, not diameter. They weren't 30 cubits in diameter. To find the diameter of a cylinder, if you want to know how big this flying Megillah was, Zechariah describes, you have to take the breadth and divide it by pi. The Megillah Zechariah saw here was 20 cubits high and 10 cubits in breadth, or line cast about. That comes out to be approximately 5.5 feet in diameter when you do the math. Okay, now that we know what a Megillah looks like, let's move on. Zechariah is going to go on to describe a woman, or an Isha, that's the Hebrew for woman, that sits in the midst of an ephah, or in some versions they say a basket. Let's look closely at these two words and see exactly what an Isha is and exactly what an ephah is. In the Hebrew, the word Isha can mean two different things. It can either mean a woman, which is what most translations put it into the English, or the exact same word Isha can mean fire offering. It's the exact same word. And you can only tell by the context which one is being used here. An ephah, in some versions they call it a basket, a woman in a basket, or an Isha in a basket. But the word basket is actually ephah. It's more precisely a receptacle for holding a quantity of 40 liters. It's a container, sometimes made of clay, sometimes it can be a basket, but it has a capacity to hold about 40 liters, kind of like a bushel basket kind of deal, a dry unit of measurement. The NIV and most other modern versions just say basket, but remember, the word here is ephah. When we read through this Zechariah chapter 5, we have to remember that when the Bible translators were putting this passage in English 400 years ago, The idea of a fire offering encased in lead that sat in the midst of an ephah seemed kind of weird to them. So they opted instead for a woman in a basket with a lead lid on it instead. We're going to actually see how since 1945 that this Hebrew word Isha really being a fire offering like it means will make a lot more sense than stuffing some woman into a basket that's flying around and putting a lead lid on it because she's so evil. Now that we have checked some of our Hebrew, and being that we now live in the nuclear age, we might be the first generation to actually understand this prophecy. So let's read Zechariah chapter 5, using the original Hebrew words to keep us on track here. All right. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, a flying roll, a Megillah. And he said unto me, What seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying Megillah, a roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof is 10 cubits. Now, if we do the math on this, that works out to be 34.3 feet long. There's 20.6 inches per cubit. And if you want to figure out the diameter, you can do the math, and it comes out to be about 5.5 feet in diameter, this flying Megillah. So Zechariah sees this flying roll, 34 feet long, 5.5 feet wide. Basically a single cylinder, as opposed to a scroll with two rolls rolled up together. A Megillah can also have various writing and markings on the sides of it, okay? All right, let's read on. Then said he unto me, This roll, or this Megillah, is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off, as on this side according to it, and everyone that swears shall be cut off, as on that side according to it. I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it, this flying roll, shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name. And it shall remain in the midst of the house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Okay. So far we have this 34-foot-long flying Megillah that flies through the air and kills people by slamming into their houses and consuming even the stones thereof. And it leaves a residue. Okay, let's read on. Then the angel that talked with me went forth, and said unto me, Lift up now thine eyes, and see what this is that goeth forth. You see, Zechariah would have known what a Megillah was. He read them all the time. This was obviously something new to him that looked sort of like a Megillah. And I said, What is it? And he said, This is an ephah that goeth forth. Okay, this Megillah is delivering a 40-liter container of some kind, an ephah. He said, Moreover, this is their resemblance through all the earth. So there's more than just one of these. According to this is how they look throughout the entire earth. Okay? This is where it starts getting really, really interesting. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead. And this talent of lead that was lifted up is an Isha, not a woman, but a fire offering that sits in the midst of the ephah, the 40-liter container. So, in the original Hebrew here is an Isha, a fire offering, that is a round, heavy weight of metal, translated back in 1611 as lead, that sits in the midst of a 40-liter container. That's weird. Okay, let's read on a little more. And he said, This is wickedness. And he cast it into the midst of the ephah, and he cast the weight of lead upon the mouth thereof. Okay, now this is getting scary. Zechariah is detailing the detonation of the atomic trigger of a thermonuclear warhead. In the Hiroshima fission bomb, you had two subcritical masses of fissile material that were imploded into each other using conventional explosives, which triggered a nuclear reaction. Okay, a plutonium bullet was cast into the mouth thereof of a larger mass of U-235 using TNT to achieve critical mass. There's no Hebrew word for uranium-235. So the closest possible way Zechariah could have described this would have been as lead. Uranium actually turns into lead as it encounters radioactive decay. This fission device Zechariah described here itself an atomic bomb, the likes of which is also available to be used as the atomic trigger for larger thermonuclear fusion bombs like the H-bomb. Also, nuclear warheads are typically encased in lead or beryllium to contain stray neutrons during detonation and also protect the handlers that come close to the weapon. But that's not all. It goes on even farther. I think it's verse 9 here. Then lifted I up mine eyes, and looked, and behold, there came out 2 Isha fire offerings, and the wind was in their wings, for they had wings like the wings of a stork. You ever see a stork flying? Kind of, they got that long, stretched out body. And they lifted up the ephah between the earth and the heaven. So we have these flying rolls, or megillas, which are carrying up into what we call the upper atmosphere. These 40-liter containers loaded with round weights of heavy metal, which are themselves wicked fire offerings, which are going to go and kill people and consume even the stones of their houses, and then leave this residue behind on top of it. If this is in fact what he saw 2,500 years ago, there is no possible way to say it more clearly in his Hebrew language. There's no way you can say that more clearly. He just described the entire mechanism of the whole device. So who is the one that's getting judged by these flying rolls, whatever they are? Then I said to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? And he said unto me, to build it a house in the land of Shinar, and it shall be established, and set there upon her own base. All right. To build, that's to establish, to cause, to continue. It a house, that's actually in the Hebrew, if you look it up, that is kind of talking like it can be a house of Sheol, or a house of hell. And it can be established, or it shall be established. Set up, erect, set upright, like you would set a vase upright. And set, that's to lay down or deposit, actually. There upon her own base. Resting place, base. So basically what this is saying is this ephah, when it arrives to wherever it's going, its destination, it deposits the wicked fire offering there. The prophet Zechariah in particular describes what seems to be a nuclear exchange in such vivid detail, it's downright scary. He speaks of these flying cylindrical containers that deliver these wicked fire offerings composed of extremely heavy metal, which fly across the face of the whole earth and consume houses and buildings, even the stones thereof, and they even leave this residue behind after the destruction. Zechariah even gives the exact dimensions of the delivery vehicles, the size of the containers that hold the wicked fire offerings, and he even details exactly how the heavy metal mechanism of this evil fire offering is detonated. He identifies exactly who is targeted and even why. We also read about the judgment of the great whore of Babylon, the city that sits on 7 hills, and how God will cause the kings of the earth to hate her and consume her with fire until she will be found no more at all forever. The scriptures do seem to have a lot to say about this coming fire judgment. Who is the one that's getting judged by these flying rolls? Then I said to the angel that talked with me, whither do these bear the ephah? And he said unto me, to build it a house in the land of Shinar. Now, it's going to build it a house in the land of Shinar. What's that talking about? Literal Shinar, or Babylon, that's another, is in present-day Iraq. Shinar is Babylon. After reading the terrifying account in Ezekiel 38 and 39 about the coming war that in that region, it's fair to say that this war includes the Middle East. However, from other passages, I really don't think you can just limit it to that region. We know that God will destroy Mystery Babylon the Great by causing the kings of the earth to utterly burn her with fire. Remember Revelation chapter 17 and 18? So what is this Mystery Babylon the Great? The mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Well, if you read Revelation, she's that great city which is drunken with the blood of the saints. She reigns over the kings of the earth, and she sits upon the 7 hills. Okay? You need to read Revelation 17 and 18 for more detail on that. So Zechariah here is just saying this wicked fire offering judgment is going to the land of Shinar. You know, Zechariah 5, along with many other scriptures, indicate that this fire judgment will be worldwide. Zechariah said earlier that this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth, not just literal Iraq, Babylon, or Shinar. God says that he will bring it forth and judge all those who swear falsely by his name. Okay, now who could that be? Who swears by the name of God in the first place? Muslims? No, they don't swear by the name of that God. Hindus? Nope, they don't swear by the name of that God. Buddhists? Nope. Wiccans? No. Christians and Jews are the only ones who can swear falsely by his name. The scriptures describe the religious system of Babylon the Great as being the mother of harlots, the religious system that is the mother of all adultery against God. There are also all the other daughter harlots as well who swear falsely by his name. You got to read through Revelation 17 and 18 here. Messiah himself talked about how on the day of judgment there will be multitudes of people claiming they did all these great works in his name, but he has to turn them away because he never really actually knew them. You know, being religious in the sight of men and really loving God with all your heart are two separate things. This particular judgment mentioned here in Zechariah 5 is actually God's judgment on those who swear falsely by his name, and those who stealeth, it says also. That would include many, 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 many of us all across the earth. Babylon is not just in Shinar anymore. Its borders have long ago spilled over the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The kingdom of Babylon the Great now saturates the entire earth. And as Zechariah describes, this curse of fire will cover all the earth as well. Sure, the mother may reside on the city of 7 hills, but the daughter harlots are guilty of fornication as well. There is no protection from this curse in the loyalty to any denomination. You have to bear the mark of the Lord in your minds and on your right hands and in your hearts to be spared from this one. If you choose to really love and follow him alone, Yahweh will lead you not into temptation, but will deliver you from evil. Peace be with you all.
There we go. There we go. Oh, turn that down. Yes, that was the video that I wanted to show you and how it pertains to, man, what's going on right here, right now in front of our face. You there on the phone, Ethan?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, very interesting. Very interesting. I guess, you know, if that's indeed what Zechariah was trying to describe, then I guess with what I was brought to understand with Ezekiel 1 is very plausible that it could be referring to jet planes. So yeah, that's quite interesting.
Yeah, you know, and I've never made this a secret, and I made a video on it. I've explained this multiple times. That in my life prior to when I fell away from God, once prior to being a Christian, and then other times in my falling away, that I spent years in prison over a crime that I did in the mid '80s. You know, and every time they locked me up, um, I sat in that in the classification prison cell where you were locked up in there, 22 hours a day, 7 days a week. You got out for a shower, you got out for an hour yard, and you got out for 20 minutes um, for different chow. Other than that, you were in the, and my family sent King James Bible, Strong's Exhaustive Concordance with the Hebrew Lexicon, sent me books on original translations of the ancient Hebrew, books on translations of the original Greek. And that's how I researched the Bible, you know. So when when Photo Helix first, turned me on to Tyrannosaurus Rex, I when I watched those videos, I fully understood exactly what he was talking about. How when you go into the original, when you go into the Strong's Exhaustive Concordance and you actually research the word that's been used in the actual, letters, um, you find that there's things that they didn't see back then because they couldn't understand, but we do now, you know.
Yeah. Oh, there you go.
All right, let me. I gotta jump over here real quick. I gotta. Sharon wants me um, to post a link to that video for which I just showed y'all, and I have to find it.
Yeah, I might jump off again for a bit. I've got a few things I need to attend to, so I'll just probably go back to listening in and give someone else a chance to come on and have a chat.
Absolutely, brother. Hey, thank you so very much for calling in, man.
No, that's all good. You know, these times that we're in, it's just something that we've all just got to keep, paying attention to and keep watch and more and just as in well, if not more importantly, seeing these things, we know that now is more important time than ever to make sure our hearts are set on Christ and that if whatever happens tomorrow, we're not guaranteed our next breath. At least we can be at peace knowing that we're righteous in the eyes of God. We're right with God. So when we see these signs, it just sort of brings home how important it is to continue to have that relationship with Christ and continue to live in repentance and continue to seek out opportunity to spread the love of Christ to others and the message of the gospel. So, whenever opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. Especially right now, and mind you, on my Facebook um, account, uh, I have Christians and non-Christians that are on my friends list. So when I put something out on my timeline, hopefully they all get to see it. And I've been really, pointing this out to people, and you gotta You got to open up the scriptures, man. Even if you're not a Christian, just look at what's going on in the world and keep an open mind. You know what I mean? And look at the end times prophecies, and then look at what's going on and what you're seeing going on in the world. And it's like a mirror image of one another.
You know, I wrote something years ago, and I don't have the thing in front of me, but I looked back on it, and it was, you know, really spirit-filled word that I didn't even realize that the Spirit had used me to write something, and it was actually called Messages to the. It was called Messages to the Future, and I was in a down. I think I was in a very down state of mind at the time, and I think I called out to God, and um, you know, this was when I was a bit away from God, but I wrote this stuff down, and I'm just recalling. I don't know if this is word for word, but just off the top of my mind, one of the sentences in this thing, because I read it not long ago. I'm like, wow, this is powerful. I didn't realize I'd written this, like how much it meant to me today compared to when I wrote it back then. But this sentence is, you know, a wise man will be open. A wiser man will will be will stand prepared. Sorry, a wise man will be open, but a wiser man will be prepared and stand ready. You know, don't be just the wise man. Be the wiser man. Is what that means. You know, stand ready, be prepared. I'd have to go and find it again, but I was just blown away by it. I was like, wow, that's such so important. You know, at one for those now, you know, if at least you have an open mind, you're wise.
You got it, man.
But a wiser man will stand ready and be ready. So, yeah. Anyway, all right. Well, yeah. Thanks for having me on, Paul, and maybe Quantum Warrior will be interested in jumping on and having a chat with you, trying to rustle up some more company for you.
Yeah, and real quick, I know Teresa's not here, Teresa Lynch right now, and she kind of felt a little rejected, and I'm sorry that she may have felt that way, but I really wanted to speak about, especially today with how prophetic, you know, and like Quantum Warrior said, right now, the Mandela effect in my list of priorities is on the back burner right now. Is I'm watching prophecy develop before our very eyes, and I'm trying to stay on top of it. But Teresa has a new Facebook group, and can somebody please type it in with the name? She added me right off the bat. I haven't actually been to it yet. Um, but if somebody can put down the name of her group, that would be really appreciative. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you can always go to the groups that I'm joined to, and you'll see the list. It's down there, you know, and it's a Mandela Effect group. So just wanted to throw that out for her because I didn't mean for her to feel rejected in any way. It's just that right now, man, there's so much going on that's the last thing I wanted to talk about tonight, you know.
Yeah, you know, she's a wise woman. I'm sure she'll understand.
All right, brother. Well, thank you so very much for popping in and talking with us and sticking around while that video played, you know.
No problem. Well, yeah. Good night, or good night, everybody, and I'll be in chat, and someone else jump on and have a chat with Paul. We always like it's always awesome to hear from everybody.
Absolutely.
if you haven't called before, like, encourage you to call in, because we're in this together, and God speaks through all of us. So if we don't hear your voice and what God's revealing to you, and obviously you can use chat, but it's so humbling and refreshing to actually put a voice to the name and hear from you. So I encourage anyone who wants to jump on and share what they see, and or just even jump on and chat with Paul and keep him company. And also, just one other thing, just on behalf of for you, Paul, just wanted to encourage anyone, if you have anything to spare in your PayPal, Paul runs this ministry off his own back. He doesn't have work. This is his ministry that God's given, or the responsibility that God's given him to do, and he's every little bit of money helps towards keeping this ministry open, because it comes out of his own pocket, and he's too humble to ask all the time for that donation. So if you can help out, even if it's just a couple of dollars or something, I encourage you to do it, because it gives us a place to come together as the body of Christ, as a church, to keep each other company, to lift each other up, pray, share testimonies, talk prophecy, talk the Mandela, and whatever. So we need this open as long as possible in these times, that we can all build each other up and stand ready. So,
well, thank you very much for that, Ethan. I really appreciate that. Lately, it's like you're one of the ones that, man, when I was just getting so overwhelmed with the weight of everything that was coming down, and I started retracting away, and you're one of the ones that were like, hey, man, the Lord told me you got work to do, and God spoke to me, and we're back, on the live stream, because I know this is a place. This is not so much for me, this is for you. This is where we can gather together as awake individuals, and for as long as we can do this, we're going to do this. I don't know what the near future is going to hold, whether or not we're going to even be, if there's going to be an internet in the United States. I don't know what's going on. It's just some real intense stuff, but I know that until such a point that I can no longer, this live stream, this place for us to gather, will be open.
Yeah, man, and just it's like God's spoken to all of us, and it's so important that we all continue to walk in that obedience when God tells us to deliver a message to someone, or when God says, I want you to tell people about something, or whatever it is, and it goes for everyone in chat. God is able to use each and every one of us to deliver us something, and it helps for all of us if we've got this place open. So just keep up the good work, Paul, and prayers always for this channel to stay open as long as possible, that as many people as possible will be able to congregate here and proclaim Christ when sometimes we're feeling like we have our backs against the wall, and that we're kind of fighting a battle on two fronts at the moment. The war against those who persecute Christ, and then to an extent, it almost feels like we're fighting a battle against our own brothers and sisters at times, with everything that we see in prophecy. I'll jump off, and God bless, and we'll definitely be in touch soon.
All right, brother, man. You have a God night, and may the Lord bless you and keep you through the night. And stay awake, brother, man.
Always. Catch you.
All right. Peace. Oh, and I just missed a call. I don't believe that. Well, yeah, I do believe that. Let me recall it. Oh, I know why. I'm sorry. That's my fault. Okay, cool. All right, whoever called, I'm calling you back right now. Well, someone just called and I just missed it. I'm calling them back, but getting no answer. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, before you call in, whoever it was, definitely call back. But before you do, we're at 2 hours and 12 minutes, and here's what I'm going to do. So for if you're new to my channel, what I normally do is I'm going to shut the live stream down so that it will upload to the channel. Don't go anywhere though. And keep your eye on the live chat, because what's going to happen is once this has been uploaded to my channel, I'm going to restart the live stream and I'll put a message into the live chat saying we're live now. And if you don't see it or you can't hear it, refresh the browser or open up a new tab. Basically, kind of break it down so that people aren't looking when they see this, they don't see a 5 hour live stream. They can go, okay, 2 hours here, 2 hours there, and they can pick the one they want to watch. All of it's going to be what we do here. So just stick around, and I'll be right back in about 5 minutes. So peace, everyone.